Mic check 1 2. It's the Y2K Collector coming at you on this holiday weekend, and I'm spending a good chunk of the weekend just playing all things Sega. So we're doing Sega Saturn, Sega Genesis, a little bit of Sega CD. We're just having a really fun retro weekend, and I figured now would be a good time to pretty much talk about why I think people should stay away from retro video games or make a case against collecting retro video games because I see different opinions on it, and obviously I myself am personally pro retro. I still collect retro video games in 2026, but I would say that there's a few reasons why you shouldn't start collecting it, or you shouldn't continue collecting it. And the main reason why is if you don't see value in it. Now, a lot of people perceive value in a number of different ways, especially within the context of retro video games. There's sentimental or emotional value when it comes to these games, meaning you have some type of nostalgic memories with these games from when you were a kid. You recognize some of these games or some of these titles from when you were growing up. Maybe these were games that your friends had and you couldn't get because maybe your parents couldn't afford a Sega Saturn or they just didn't want to spend the money. Maybe you were in a house that was pro Sony, pro PlayStation, and they just didn't want to get certain things. Whatever the case may be, you have some type of sentimental value for these games. And because of that, you see the value in it, right? So there's sentimental value. For some people, they do see the monetary value in retro video games, although the thought process around that would be that if you're just starting to buy these games now, especially if you're buying them at market price, well, there's really not much more value to be had, at least in the immediate future, right? So if you're paying market value or market price for retro games today, and you're hoping that you're gonna see some type of return on that investment, well, don't count on that coming your way anytime within the next 5 years or so. Because quite frankly, the way the economy is going, I highly doubt that not anyone, but I highly doubt that the market for buyers of retro video games, especially niche games, is going to grow. I just don't see that market growing anytime soon. I think it's still there, and obviously, if you can find someone who's willing to sell you their collection or you're able to do deals with, then for sure, go ahead and go for it, especially if you see the value there. But there are a lot of people who do see monetary value in it. And they collect it. But I'm gonna be honest with you, if that's why you're gonna start getting into it, or if that's why you want to buy or start collecting retro games, I would recommend that you not do that. At least not right now. Now is not a good time to do any kind of value collecting or anything like that. I would stay away from it, right, just from that standpoint. The last context or reason why I would say stay away from it is that if you're thinking about trying to build some type of social media base with retro games, I really think that that ship has sailed. I don't really think that making a lot of content around retro video game pickups or retro video game scores or retro video game hauls, those are not super popular topics, especially here on YouTube. I don't really know about Instagram or TikTok because I don't really use those platforms, but I know that here on YouTube, the retro video game content has been super saturated, right? So it's over for that. If you think you're going to, make a pickup video that gets you 100,000 views because you found this really rare game for $20, the odds are that that's not going to happen. In fact, there are more content creators that are getting a lot more views collecting more of the common games like Kingdom Hearts or the Jak and Daxter series on PlayStation 2 or just more common stuff. Because when it comes to like the YouTube and the social media piece of it, a lot of it is really kind of the story. People really aren't following you for necessarily these rare games that you're picking up, but they're really kind of following your story. They're following your journey. And the people who mess with you are going to mess with you whether you find a $500 game or you find a $5 game. It's really not about the game. It's really about your story. It's really about your journey. It's really about them following that part of your life. And so if you think that you're going to dive into it and amass this, major following on YouTube or TikTok or something because you have all these retro games, that ship has sailed. maybe you would have had a chance in 2020, even 2021, early 2022, but here in 2026, most people don't care anymore. Now, if you want to make a YouTube channel or you want to start a YouTube presence or do some type of media presence, maybe if you do that around something like Pokemon, maybe you'll get a lot more traction there because that seems to be the thing that a lot of the kids are really hype over. That's the thing that they really obsess about, and that will probably get you a lot more eyes and a lot more attention. But when it comes to like the retro scene and retro video games, the only people who are really into that are just the people who were probably into it 10, 15 years ago before the hype. So, overall, I would say that, kind of stay away from it. If you don't see the value in it, stay away from it. It's not for you. And it's okay. You can admire these games from a distance. You can obviously go and emulate these games. You can obviously, there's all kinds of remakes for some of these games that are being remade and re-released on like the Switch and the Switch 2. So depending on the game, you may be able to play it on a modern console. There's a lot of ways that you can play these games. These games in particular, there are not a lot of ways you can play these games. In fact, I think every single one of these games, you can only play them on the Sega Saturn, with the exception of Batman Forever, the arcade game. I think that was also released on the Sony PlayStation 1. So with these games in particular, yes, the Sega Saturn is the only way that you could play these games outside of emulation. Of course, when you emulate, you can emulate almost anything. Is the experience going to be the same? Is the gameplay going to be the same? That's a conversation for a different day. But if you're talking about just playing these games on licensed hardware, then yeah. For certain games, you do need the physical game. You do need the actual console. You do need the physical cartridge, because not all games have been re-released. Will all games get a re-release? Who knows? We don't know. Only time will tell. There's a ton of games that I wish would get a release on the Switch. I'm still trying to figure out why we haven't gotten a re-release of Hagane. I'm still trying to figure out why we haven't gotten a re-release of Metal Warriors. Why haven't we gotten a re-release of Skyblazer? Why haven't we gotten a re-release of, Musha or Elemental? Well, I think Musha is Musha on the Sega Genesis Mini too? Somebody let me know. I don't think Musha is on any of the mini consoles. I know Truxton is. I know Robo Alesti is, but when it comes to the Genesis, like, where's games like Troubleshooter? Where's games like Musha? I'd love to see some of those games get ported to modern consoles. And if some of those games that I mentioned are on modern consoles, let me know in the comments, because I'd love to play them. Those are some of my favorite shoot 'em ups. But yeah, unless you see the value, unless there's some intrinsic value in it for you, don't do the retro thing. It's over, it's played out, and I think only the folks who really, really want to enjoy it and play the games are probably going to be the ones left. But let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next one. It's Y2K Collector. Take it easy.